Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Walkthrough Crew. I was asked to be excited. This is video number 14, cycle 452, and yeah, let's pick up where we normally do. Again, I'm only going to be staying on 15 dupes for the rest of the game. Food has been condensed to just this and my barbecue. Eventually, I will get rid of the rest of the bristle blossoms. I wanted to do it sooner rather than later, but I just don't have enough eggs coming through yet. But that's the plan with that. Water's looking pretty good, as we can see. All of our energy's looking good. Got a lot of natural gas backed up. Got a lot of hydrogen backed up. So lots of spare energy around the place. And as you may notice, the first thing I'm going to talk about is these transit tubes. So the transit tubes are a network of very fast-moving ways for dupes to get from point A to point B. So if we can hopefully catch somebody moving in one of these, we can follow them. And yeah, they're not cooperating. Go in the transit. Okay, there went somebody. They just traveled from one. Oh, never mind. They're so fast I can barely keep up. But yeah, they move fast. That's the point. But these things do take a lot of power. And like I did mention, the only reason I'm able to get away with this is because I do have all this power to spend. So if you're trying to do this with very low power, this is really not going to work out. You're probably going to have a lot of power problems if you're not too careful. So just be aware of that. Now that we have the transit tubes, the whole point of this was to allow us to get up into space pretty easily. And this is a pretty standard setup here. I have 9 suits, Atmosuit checkpoint. I have a liquid lock, but this is a liquid lock with petroleum this time. And I ran petroleum up here because I'm going to eventually use it for rocket fuel. So if I'm going to use the line for it, I might as well just run it for my liquid lock now rather than later. So that's the idea behind that. Part of this video is I'm just going to be showing you guys how to actually get out into space. So I'm just going to build a ladder up like that. And cancel this. We're going to have to check back on this a couple times because, of course, as soon as I do it, everybody goes to sleep. That's just how it goes sometimes. So I've got some other stuff to talk about. One thing is we are starting to kind of max out our morale like I talked about before. Uh-oh, someone's stuck. What are you doing? Oh. But yeah, we talked a little bit about setting up for more morale here as we get off a different food source. Even right now, I have so much being generated because most of my dupes eat barbecue, and some days that they don't, some of them have to eat gristleberries every once in a while, and it does cause a little bit of stress, but we're doing just fine. So jumping into the skills here, which we haven't looked at for a little while, your skill points will kind of grow unbounded, so there will be a point where you just kind of can't keep assigning them. So I have all my dupes sitting at about 27-ish morale, except for the new ones. I still need to address some of their points. But the things that I eventually want to really maximize once I get enough morale is I want to get everybody on this ranching because I'm going to have a lot of critters. And I want to get everybody on this suit wearing, or this exosuit training, because if they're going to work in space, I don't want them to be slow. Outside of that, you can kind of distribute a little bit. You don't need a ton of mining later in the game, and you can always strip these points from your dupes later in the game. At pretty much no expense. It's a little bit of power, but it's totally worth it. And I have quite a few people in construction. You can see I have 8 of them all the way leveled up. But yeah, ranching and suit wearing are going to be my bigger ones. You can also add the free stuff like plumbing will add extra strength so they can carry more things. It'll be better for supplying and cleaning up the map. This mechatronics engineering is going to be better for being able to build these shipping networks and stuff like that. So yeah, once you get the morale up about to that point, everyone's specs is going to kind of look the same. The things you're really going to not have a lot of are like rocket navigation. You don't need many dupes to do that. I only have 1. You don't need a lot of artists. I only have 1. You don't need many cooks. I have 2, just in case one of them, for whatever reason, can't do the job that day. I could also take those points away from the other person that has it, which I believe is him. Nope, I guessed wrong. Alright, well, I give up. But yeah, so once you get to this stage of the game, definitely assigning out those extra skills are going to help your dupes move a lot faster and be a lot more efficient. So just make sure to keep an eye on that. Another thing that I've done in the meantime is I have revealed about as much of the map as I possibly can. So the only parts that I haven't are like the bottom left of this oil biome, a little bit up here, which is mostly like a space entrance, and that's fine. This is the last part of the map I really need to look for. The only reason I'm doing this is because sometimes you can find stuff on the very corners of the map. So I'm just looking for those just in case, and I'm also just kind of buying a little bit of time since I didn't have the copper to make enough suits to get out into space right away, and I didn't really find anything interesting. Found this carbon dioxide geyser. Puts out carbon dioxide as like a liquid form, but it's not really that interesting. Like, I just blow carbon dioxide out into space anyway. I guess you could use that for cooling or something like that, but our cooling loop is totally fine. There was another thing here that I don't know what it is. It's some kind of like liquid geyser, as you can tell by the shape. Again, we talked about this in an earlier video, but I know it's a 4 wide and 2 tall object here, so it's going to be some kind of liquid. So we'll see what that is. And again, I talked about we're going to be getting out into space here. I need to make sure to clean this up so they don't get stuck. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be building up as far as I possibly can. And right here, as you'll see, is where it stops. So I'm going to leave just a couple of spaces before that. And I'm going to start building a bunker tile. And I'm going to leave a couple spaces on either side of this ladder like I usually do in case I want to add a fire pole. And I'm also going to be moving this setup up here closer to where they're going to be working at some point. So this is just a temporary entrance for the time being. I will eventually build another one that's a little bit closer. So I'm going to build 3 bunker tiles here, and that's because those bunker tiles and the bunker doors are capable of withstanding the impact from those asteroids without getting damaged. So that's the first layer that I'm going to be putting on here, and I'll kind of build this out a little bit just to show you what I do. So I'm going to build something like this. Whoops. And totally missed because that's what we do when we're recording. And I'm going to also add some bunker tiles, just every other space, something like this. I want to leave 3 spaces between this level and the bunker doors so that I can still work on these doors while standing on this level. So I'm going to do something like that. Just going to use these bunker tiles, and I'm going to eventually replace them with something else. We'll talk about that in a bit. This is the first step of what you want to do. I'm just going to go ahead and let this run. We'll start having dupes build this out kind of urgently. There is a meteor shower right now, so my dupes may get hit or my ladders may get damaged. It's really not the end of the world. It's only a big problem if you have a lot of sensitive equipment up here. You just got the bright and cheerful perk right when that meteor hit. That was great. Alright, so I'm just going to let this run, and we'll come back when this is more complete, and I'll show you the rest of the setup that I usually do. Gonna try to dig this out as well, get more people up here hopefully. But yeah, so we'll come back to that in just a little bit. Yeah, so revealing every part of the map as we left off. There's one more thing that was really weird. The only other thing that I found of interest was this. But the funny thing is that this is not anything, which is so strange. I've never seen anything like this before. Like, I could build in all the spots that it would normally be for like a geyser or for something else. So I don't know if this is just a purely random thing or if they just put this here to troll me, because there's even like obsidian and granite and stuff around it, which is always around one of these things that you're supposed to dig out. So I've never seen anything like that before. So if you've seen that, let me know, because that's a new thing for me. Yeah, the only other major project that I have going on right now is I'm starting to get this puffed area up. Which you can see I just have them cleaning up for the time being. Let me get these emptied. And what this is going to be is this is just going to be a chamber full of polluted oxygen. And there's a lot of different ways to generate the polluted oxygen, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back into my plumbing. I'm going to put a bunch of outhouses here, which is also why it's good to save a little bit of dirt. And I also just used up the last of my sandstone. Which happens. This is also why you want to keep around a little bit of your dirt, which is going to be here, just so you can use it for this phase of the game, which is going to be for spawning morbs. And morbs will spawn whenever you leave an outhouse that has not been cleaned. So I'm going to build these. I'm going to force my dupes to use them by shutting or like limiting access to my regular bathrooms. I'm just going to make them a little less happy, but whatever, they can deal with it for the time being. And as soon as these get used up, I'm going to disallow my dupes from interacting with it so that they don't empty it. And then once everything is full, I will make everything allowed to be interacted with, but I'll put it on a super low priority so that there's a very low chance that it gets cleaned. And as soon as they are all full and able to be interacted with again, which is the only way in which morbs will spawn, I'm going to lock this door and just keep it that way. And for the time being, I'm sucking out all the oxygen so that the morbs will eventually spawn a bunch of polluted oxygen. And this many outhouses should spawn a good number of morbs to keep a pretty healthy population of puffs fed for quite a while. So that's my strategy with this. You'll see this coming up in the next video. And I'm also secretly buying time so that hopefully this setup can be more complete by the time we get out there. And of course it's not. But I'm just going to explain the general idea of what the rest of this is going to be. So the rest of this is going to be placing solar panels, at least for the time being. There's a lot of things you can place out here. You can place solar panels. You can place the telescopes, which you have here, which of course you need to research this stuff. Here we go. and you can place, you can start opening up a area for like your rocket silo to start launching rocket missions. All of those will need protection from meteors, but they will also need a way to clean up all of the garbage that's left by meteors. So like this regolith, for example, this is all stuff that has fallen from meteors and just left it here. And I need a way to deal with that, but I also need to make sure that this doesn't touch any of the buildings that I'm going to need to build out in space, because it's just going to overheat them and break them. So this regolith is sitting at about 500 degrees, and most of those buildings overheat at a temperature that's way lower than that. So I'll show you a couple of cool setups here as this gets more fleshed out to deal with stuff like that. Yeah, and that'll be it. That'll be the next video, pretty much, is showing the setup that I use to deal, especially with this regolith, and have to start setting up solar panels and stuff like that, which is going to be yet another source of energy. If you have plenty of energy, which I do in this game, I'm not going to set up a whole ton of solar panels. I'm just going to show you the basic idea of what it is and how it works so that you can start emulating that, in case you want to come out here a little bit earlier than I did to grab solar energy rather than any of the steam energy from like these volcanoes and stuff. I wish I knew what this was, and I wish somebody would hurry up and get over here and do this, so let's try and rush this just so we can get a little bit of closure on what that actually is. Someone's also idle, which might be bad. Yep. Dumb people building yourself into corners. Yeah, this is totally nothing. This is so weird. I've never seen anything like this before. But yeah, let's check on what that last thing is, and then I think I'm going to call it a day. The next video, like I said, we'll be looking at that puff chamber. We'll be talking a little bit more about space. And particularly the reason I want those puffs is for rocket fuel. So you will want to make sure in the meantime that you are grabbing some of your research for this stuff. So you want to get the introductory rocketry, which is going to add your telescopes and these space scanners and all kinds of stuff that's going to be really useful in the space biome. Why is nobody coming to dig this out? I'm getting really impatient. You? You coming to dig this out? Yes. Looks like it's just a water geyser. Yeah, nothing special over here. I don't know why I wanted to see that so badly. Maybe I was just a little bit, felt bad for the last time I was like, hey, let's reveal something, and I totally didn't show up by the end of the video. And I'm sure nobody cared, but, yeah, whatever. Alright, let's call that good. I'll see you guys back here really soon to talk more about the space setup. Yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you back here soon.